Mr. Prada didn't rise on TikTok by playing it safe. When he resurfaced on TikTok months later in 2024, fans couldn't resist the feeling that something had changed in his behavior.
It's a prison. Get me out.
The cutting of his hair, talk about mugshots, and mental health were getting worse each day. But then something happened that caught everyone off guard.
I think I might regret this. Damn. Why I cut my hair off? I don't know. And everybody asking where I've been, I took a break. So some people just need a break from social media.
It was the kind of moment that made even his most loyal followers question what was really going on behind the screen. It all started when fans began noticing something had changed in Mr. Prada's behavior since his return in 2024. In one of the first jarring videos, he dramatically cut off his braids, leaving his head unevenly shaved. But what made fans wonder was the fact that he kept talking about his break from social media while he ruthlessly cut his hair.
I think I might regret this. Damn. Why I cut my hair off? I don't know. And everybody asking where I've been, I took a break. So some people just need a break from social media.
The look was a jarring departure from his polished aesthetic, especially for someone known for style and swagger. Viewers reacted immediately with comments like, "This is not Mr. Prada," and "What happened to him?" serving as early warning signs that something deeper could be going wrong. Then came the next unsettling moment, a TikTok where he joked he was practicing for his mugshot. The line meant his humor felt off, especially coming from someone who had portrayed himself as confident and carefree. The caption, combined with his clip delivery, left fans asking whether he was joking or signaling that something darker was bubbling under the surface. The tone of his uploads shifted too, slipping from witty, curated content to fragmented, emotionally raw clips. In one instance, he sang alone in a video titled "What I Do After a Breakup," wearing heavy eyeliner. It was intimate and melancholic in a way that didn't align with his past comedic style, and it added to the mounting concern among his followers. These weren't isolated misfires. In the months leading up to his arrest, fans noted growing emotional volatility in his content. Rather than delivering quick skits or trending dances, he seemed adrift. Uneven visuals, slowed pacing, and a cadence that felt distant and unfocused. Viewers began to connect these dots. Early disappearance, erratic posts, jolting changes in tone, and many interpreted them as outward signs of internal distress. "You killed somebody? This is not you." But things took a more serious turn when a resurfaced clip showed him openly admitting he had bipolar disorder. In the video, Mr. Prada said, "I was trying to hide it, but it just slipped out." It wasn't framed as an appeal or a performance. It was a moment of halted vulnerability that landed heavily with fans. Suddenly, the comments weren't just asking what's wrong, but offering real concern and encouraging messages. "You don't owe us content," and "Please take care of yourself." The contrast between his perfectly shaped appearance and these raw moments became even more striking in retrospect. Before this shift, his visuals were crisp, stylized, and deliberate fashion and setup. Afterward, they leaned toward dim lighting, rushed edits, and a sense of weariness. The aloof veil dropped, and it stretched lines between performance and plea. To understand how it reached this point, it helps to look back at Mr. Prada's history, how his past experiences, patterns, and pressures shaped the persona that fans both admired and grew concerned about. From the moment Taryn Ishmael Thomas, known online as Mr. Prada, began posting on TikTok, his videos stood out. It wasn't just that he had a sense of humor or dance skills. He had an aesthetic, a way of moving, dressing, and editing that felt deliberate. His visuals were sharp, colors carefully chosen, lighting precise, framing intentional. Every clip felt like it had been rehearsed. Every outfit selected to create an identity viewers could recognize and anticipate. Fans followed a persona, a combination of charisma, style, and confidence that became his signature. It was this precision that made him appealing early on. Viewers knew what to expect, and they returned for it repeatedly, forming a growing base of engaged followers who responded to each post with likes, shares, and comments talking about every detail. Even in those early viral moments, though, there were hints of the pressure that came with such visibility. Maintaining that level of perfection wasn't casual. Every punchline, every outfit, every slick edit required energy, discipline, and focus. The more attention he gained, the heavier the expectation became, both from himself and from an audience that consumed his work with constant scrutiny. In a space like TikTok, where trends shift daily and the algorithm favors predictability and engagement, the demand to perform was unrelenting. Every successful video became a benchmark. Falling short risked both attention and reputation. From the outside, it looked effortless. From the inside, it required constant calculation. His early content reflected that balance. Comedy skits riffed on school, dating, or family life, often exaggerated for effect, but grounded enough to feel relatable. Fashion was never just clothing. It was part of the performance, a visual cue signaling confidence and style. Accessories, colors, and even background settings were intentional. Fans quickly picked up on the patterns. Bright colors paired with bold lines, energetic movement timed to beats, consistent themes that made him recognizable. This consistency built trust and anticipation, a rhythm that made followers return repeatedly. But that same structure that built his audience also created pressure. Every new post had to live up to the previous one. Every trend demanded engagement. Every viral moment required replication or evolution. As his following grew, the platform began to demand more. TikTok's algorithm favors repetition and amplification, rewarding content that performs well while punishing inconsistency. For Thomas, this meant that every polished, high-energy video brought more visibility and more pressure to maintain that level of performance. Any lapse, missed trend, delayed post, or stylistic misstep risked diminishing engagement. Even minor inconsistencies became visible. Fans noticed, and social media amplified them. A slight delay in posting could lead to speculation. A change in tone could draw concern, and a caption hinting at stress could spiral into discussion threads. In a way, the platform enforced a cycle in which Mr. Prada had to perform at peak energy constantly, leaving little room for personal downtime. Over time, small signs of strain began to emerge. His posting patterns became unpredictable. Some weeks he would upload multiple times with highly polished, energetic videos. Other weeks there would be silence, no content, no explanation, leaving fans wondering whether he was taking breaks, struggling with ideas, or dealing with something personal. Captions began to hint at frustration or exhaustion, sometimes brief, cryptic, or self-deprecating. Lines that once would have been witty now seemed weighed down with tension. Followers noticed these subtle changes, connecting them to minor shifts in editing, pacing, or delivery. The pattern was never dramatic in isolation, but taken together, it painted a picture of someone under pressure. Moreover, several creators accused him of stealing their content, to which he admitted but showed no care for. Despite his admission, Thomas continued posting stolen content, garnering millions of views. His shameless video stealing was clearly not enough to deter his audience, and it seems like his embracing of it was what made it funnier to people. Thomas became notorious on the platform for copying other creators' videos shot for shot. Some creators who had their content recreated by Thomas called him out, but his unapologetic attitude toward their complaints quickly spawned a meme. In this way, Mr. Prada's descent was always double-edged. Style, polish, and confidence built his platform, but they also set the stage for heightened scrutiny. Every visual choice, post, and interaction carried both the potential for engagement and the risk of misinterpretation. Early signs of strain, erratic posting, tonal shifts, cryptic captions, and withdrawn engagement were magnified by the very visibility that made him successful. For followers, the combination of aesthetic appeal, humor, and emerging instability created a pattern of attention that was equal parts fascination and alarm. This paradox was what truly set Mr. Prada apart. On one hand, he projected a kind of effortless charisma, the type that made people watch even when they didn't necessarily approve of what he was doing. On the other hand, his content strategy, if it could even be called that, was riddled with contradictions. He was stealing content, but also claiming originality, admitting guilt but refusing remorse, cracking jokes while simultaneously revealing flashes of tension. This unpredictability created a dynamic in which his followers weren't watching videos, they were watching him. The drama, the contradictions, the spectacle of someone who seemed both fully aware and entirely careless. Online culture thrives on novelty, and while shamelessness can be a short-term advantage, it often becomes exhausting. That tension between spectacle and sustainability lingered in the background, and when the momentum finally snapped, the break was as dramatic as his rise. So then suddenly in late 2023, Terrion Ishmael Thomas, known online as Mr. Prada, abruptly disappeared from TikTok. His accounts, once brimming with energetic skits and polished visuals, fell silent. By December, he had deleted nearly all of his previous content, leaving only a few isolated videos behind. This sudden withdrawal puzzled his millions of followers, who had come to expect regular upbeat posts. Fans speculated about the reasons for his disappearance, with some suggesting he might be taking a break, while others feared something more serious was at play. The absence of any official explanation fueled rumors and heightened concern among his audience. However, when the descent finally came, fans didn't handle it passively. Every questionable post circulated fast. Clips of him cutting his braids or practicing for a mugshot were remixed and stitched. These bits became visual flashpoints. Did he seem okay? Hashtags proliferated alongside expressions of concern. Comments flooded with people reminding him to take breaks or seek help. Live streams, when they happened, were even more revealing. Fans noted fleeting expressions, a pallor, a furrowed brow, a gaze that drifted away mid-comment. In the past, he owned the camera. Now sometimes the camera owned him. Videos cut abruptly or ended before he finished a thought. Followers parsed close-up shots, background audio, even the way he sat. The scrutiny was obsessive, but it stemmed from care more than criticism. What's vital is this: none of these examples are fictional or speculative. Each moment, like self-shaving, mugshot mimicry, breakup vocals, mental health confession, stylistic decline, or fractured livestream presence, is a documented file in the public record. And to thousands of followers, these weren't just content shifts, they were emotional signals, decoded in real time. Yes, social media distorts, but it also magnifies. In Mr. Prada's case, fans were trying to understand if they were watching a persona crack or a person collapse. It became less about what is he doing, and more about, is he okay, and what happened? It all reached a shocking tipping point when TikTok fame collided with a brutal homicide, raising the question: did the mental health signals Mr. Prada displayed online foreshadow something far darker? As fans and observers reflected on his increasingly erratic posts, cryptic captions, and sudden shifts in behavior, the digital warning signs they had debated and dissected suddenly took on a chilling real-world dimension. The morning of September 28, 2024 began unremarkably for Dr. William Nicholas Abraham, yet it would be the last time he was seen alive. Witnesses placed him arriving at Terrion Ishmael Thomas's apartment complex, wearing the same attire in which his body would later be discovered.
On TikTok, he's known as Mr. Prada with more than 8 million followers.
Life is a prison. Get me out.
But now the social media star has millions following the story of his arrest in the brutal murder of a popular doctor, seen here on a personal video from his website.
Out of wounds, there'll come great growth and self-improvement.
Investigators pieced together a disturbing timeline. Within hours, Abraham was assaulted inside Thomas's home, and evidence recovered significant blood stains, multiple sharp weapons, and signs of attempted cleanup, indicating the severity and premeditation of the act. Eyewitnesses reported seeing Thomas dragging a large tarp down the stairs and placing it into Abraham's black Lincoln MKZ, suggesting the assault and removal of the body were deliberate and organized rather than spontaneous. Once outside, Thomas drove the vehicle, refusing to stop for law enforcement, striking a patrol car and fleeing the scene. His flight ended with a crash, after which he evaded immediate capture. Days later, authorities apprehended him in Dallas, Texas, where he faced multiple charges, including unauthorized use of a vehicle, resisting arrest, criminal damage, and ultimately second-degree murder and obstruction of justice. First-degree murder charges were also considered, given Abraham's age and the brutal nature of the attack. Despite the gravity of the crime, investigators reported no known personal connection between Abraham and Thomas that would clearly explain a motive, and it was believed Abraham was not Thomas's client, leaving the reasoning behind the homicide unclear.
Terrion Thomas, aka Mr. Prada, is charged with second-degree murder in the death of Louisiana therapist Nicholas Abraham, who was found bludgeoned to death and wrapped in a tarp on the side of the highway.
In the wake of the murder, online communities revisited Thomas's social media history. Fans recalled increasingly erratic behavior and cryptic posts in the weeks preceding the attack. On TikTok and Instagram, Thomas had shared captions implying distress, frustration, and alienation, with statements like, practicing for my mugshot and life is a prison. Get me the F out. These posts, once interpreted as humor or dramatic performance, took on a more alarming context after Abraham's death. Many observers noted that Thomas's videos displayed a marked shift in tone, pacing, and emotional stability, suggesting that his mental health had deteriorated sharply in the period leading up to the crime. Experts analyzing his online behavior pointed to several potential warning signs: erratic posting patterns, abrupt changes in aesthetics, cryptic captions, and public expressions of despair may indicate escalating psychological stress. Videos featuring sudden, almost compulsive actions or displays of agitation hinted at underlying emotional instability. When viewed collectively, these behaviors could be seen as a buildup of distress signals that were visible to millions of followers but unaddressed until tragedy struck.
Did talk about his mental health struggles online.
I never seen anybody that's bipolar before.
Abraham was seen on surveillance cameras going into the TikTok personality's apartment. Mr. Prada, no stranger to the camera, is later seen dragging something wrapped in a blue tarp and putting it into the doctor's car. The next day, Dr. Nick's body is found. Cause of death, blunt force trauma.
Thomas's online persona, Mr. Prada, had thrived on attention, performance, and engagement, but it also may have amplified pressures that contributed to his mental state. The constant demand to maintain a persona, combined with public scrutiny and feedback loops from social media platforms, can exacerbate pre-existing conditions, particularly when a creator exhibits signs of anxiety, depression, or mood instability. Observers noted that Thomas's previously confident and carefree demeanor became increasingly fragmented, with moments of vulnerability emerging in ways that were both subtle and starkly visible to his audience.
And you don't seem to understand.
The murder itself underscores the unpredictable intersection of untreated mental health issues and social media amplification. Abraham, widely regarded as a gentle, compassionate figure who dedicated decades to counseling others through anxiety, depression, and substance abuse, became a victim in a situation entirely outside his control. His death highlights the devastating real-world consequences when individuals struggling with psychological instability act on impulses that may have been signaled online but went unnoticed or unaddressed. Community responses to the homicide were immediate and intense. Baton Rouge residents, aware of Abraham's lifelong dedication to mental health and pastoral care, expressed shock and grief. Friends, colleagues, and former clients described him as selfless, tender, and unwaveringly committed to helping others. Many were left searching for an explanation as to how someone so devoted to healing could meet such a violent fate. The stark contrast between Abraham's life and the circumstances of his death created a sense of collective bewilderment and sadness. I live in Baton Rouge, and he came in my friend's hair store about 2 months ago, y'all. And I swear the way he was talking about it was so cold. Like I knew he was struggling, but I never knew it was going to lead to a murder. In online spaces, retrospection dominated discussions. TikTok and Reddit threads dissected Thomas's content with new scrutiny, tracing connections between cryptic captions, erratic behavior, and the eventual act of violence. Comments and posts highlighted specific moments, joking about mugshots, expressions of being trapped, and emotional volatility as potential precursors, sparking broader conversations about how social media can both reveal and obscure mental health struggles. Fans debated the role of content creators following and noticing and responding to signals of distress, and whether the engagement-driven nature of platforms like TikTok can inadvertently overlook serious warning signs until it's too late. OMG, I remember him. I remember he shaved his head and his eyebrows. I hope he okay, because I haven't heard about him till now. This is crazy. I don't want to believe this for real. The investigation into Abraham's death also revealed the chaotic aftermath of the incident. Thomas's attempts to conceal evidence, evade law enforcement, and manipulate the situation demonstrated an acute disconnect between his public persona and his private actions. The dissonance raised questions about impulse control, judgment, and the ways in which untreated mental health issues can manifest in dangerous, sometimes violent behavior. It also underscored the challenge of interpreting digital signals. While fans noticed signs of distress, the severity of Thomas's mental state and the potential for real-world harm were not fully apparent until after the crime occurred. This tragic event also sparked conversation about preventative measures, digital literacy, and the responsibility of both content creators and audiences. Mental health professionals pointed out that noticing concerning behavior online is only the first step. Effective support, intervention, and professional guidance are necessary to prevent escalation. Thomas's followers, while observant, lacked the means to intervene directly, highlighting the limitations of public scrutiny in preventing private tragedies. The investigation into Abraham's death also highlighted a complicated side to the victim's past. Reports indicated that Abraham had previously faced allegations of assault involving an 11-year-old patient, though this incident was entirely separate from Mr. Prada, and authorities could not establish any direct link between the two. While this troubling history did not excuse what happened, it added another layer of complexity to the case. This is an ongoing investigation that'll take time to gather further evidence. Casey Hicks of the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office said in a statement, "I hope that this arrest may bring some closure and assurance to friends and family," she added. That arrest, however, would not come immediately. It was the result of an interstate manhunt that stretched across several states and brought law enforcement attention squarely onto Dallas, Texas, where Mr. Prada had fled in an attempt to evade accountability. By the time officers finally tracked Prada to Dallas, he had already become the focus of an intensive manhunt that spanned days of painstaking work. Investigators relied on phone records, witness accounts, and surveillance footage to retrace his movements in the immediate aftermath of Abraham's death. Prada had clearly been trying to move cautiously, keeping a low profile and steering clear of familiar places, but his efforts were not enough. Ultimately, authorities zeroed in on a residential neighborhood where he had been staying. When law enforcement closed in on him, the operation was swift. At dawn, Dallas police, working alongside the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, surrounded the area. Prada was taken into custody. Those who saw him said he looked withdrawn, even stunned, as if the weight of the moment had finally landed. For Abraham's family and friends, the news of the arrest brought a measure of relief. Weeks of speculation and anguish had been punctuated by uncertainty, and seeing a suspect in handcuffs felt like the first concrete step toward accountability. For them, Abraham was someone magical and didn't deserve what he got. Yet the journey was only the beginning, and everyone understood that the legal process ahead would be long and complicated.
You know somebody's magical when you immediately say, I want to have him back. And we started having him on once a month for a mental health segment. He just has this magnetism and charisma and light to the world that everyone gravitated toward.
Following his arrest, Prada was transported to the Dallas County Jail. The booking was routine, mugshots, fingerprints, processing, but the nature of the change immediately made it stand out. He was facing second-degree murder, a charge in Louisiana that carries the potential of life imprisonment without parole. The case could not proceed in Texas because the crime itself had taken place in East Baton Rouge Parish. This meant extradition would be necessary, a process that can sometimes drag on if the defendant fights it. In Prada's situation, however, matters moved more directly. Prosecutors pushed for his rapid transfer, stressing that the seriousness of the crime demanded urgency. Within days, Prada was escorted under heavy security back to Louisiana. Once in East Baton Rouge, he was booked again, this time into the parish prison, marking the beginning of a new chapter in the case. His first appearance before a Louisiana judge centered on whether he should be granted bond, a pivotal moment for any defendant. The courtroom was crowded, charged with tension. Prosecutors argued forcefully that bond should be denied. They pointed to the brutality of Abraham's death, the seriousness of the charge, and Prada's decision to flee across state lines as evidence that he posed both a danger to others and a flight risk. To them, allowing him to walk free before trial was unthinkable. The defense countered by painting a different picture. They noted Prada's ties to his community and suggested the narrative was more complex than what had been presented. They argued that bail would allow him to prepare his defense properly, but their position was undercut by the fact that he had already attempted to evade law enforcement.
He's being brought back here for questioning, and of course, we'll keep you updated as we find out more. Guys?
The judge weighed both sides carefully, but ultimately ruled against the defense, denying bond. The decision drew visible reactions from the gallery, particularly Abraham's loved ones, who expressed relief at knowing Prada would remain behind bars while awaiting trial. That ruling also signaled how seriously the court was taking the matter, establishing the gravity of what lay ahead.
20-year-old Terrion Thomas displayed little to no emotion in the courtroom today after a motion requesting bond for the TikTok star was swiftly denied.
With the bond denied, the case moved into the pre-trial phase. This period is often filled with motions, hearings, and challenges as both sides position themselves for trial. Prada's defense team quickly began filing motions questioning how evidence had been gathered, challenging the reliability of certain witness statements, and raising concerns about the impact of media coverage. They argued that widespread publicity could poison the jury pool in East Baton Rouge Parish, making a fair trial impossible. At one point, they even floated the idea of a change of venue. Prosecutors, for their part, remained confident. They emphasized the strength of their case, pointing to forensic findings, surveillance footage, and testimony from those who had last seen Abraham alive. To them, the evidence painted a clear picture, one that would not easily be dismissed. The pretrial hearings became a clash of legal strategies, with both sides pressing every advantage.
This is where deputies believe the murder happened, an apartment complex off Essen Lane in Baton Rouge. They say surveillance video shows the victim, Dr. Nick Abraham, arrive here at Mr. Prada's apartment Saturday morning. But he never walked back out.
We have a witness at the apartment complex that saw the suspect dragging what we now believe is the victim's body.
Meanwhile, outside the courtroom, the case had already taken on a life of its own in the public sphere. News outlets in Louisiana and Texas covered each development closely. Prada's dramatic arrest in Dallas, the denial of bond, and the complicated revelations about Abraham's own past created a story that was both tragic and deeply polarizing. As weeks turned into months, prosecutors continued building their case. They sought additional witness testimony, combed through digital records, and refined their narrative in preparation for trial. The defense, equally determined, worked to dismantle the state's arguments piece by piece, highlighting contradictions and raising questions about procedure.
He'll be back in court on October 8th. Today, his lawyer said there's, quote, a litany of evidence to go through in the time leading up to his next court date.
The case also prompted broader conversations about the justice system itself. Denying Prada bond underscored the principle that public safety outweighs individual liberty when violent crimes are alleged. At the same time, the defense's insistence on due process highlighted the system's core value, that every defendant is innocent until proven guilty. These competing priorities played out not just in the courtroom, but in the court of public opinion, offering a stark view of the tensions at the heart of criminal justice. Even as the legal gears turned, investigators continued their work. Detectives revisited evidence, cross-checked timelines, and interviewed additional witnesses. Officials reminded the public that while Prada's arrest was a milestone, it was not the first step.
Witnesses tell us police had him stopped in this parking lot. He tried to back up, and when he realized he couldn't get out, he hopped up onto this curb and went through this breezeway. He drove through this way, crashing into this planter right here, and then made his way to the back parking lot. The wheel then fell off the car back here. He got out and ran through those buildings.
The police chasing him with his gun out, move back.
And watch closely here. A woman who saw it unfold shot this video of the driver, believed to be Mr. Prada, running off.
For Abraham's family, progress was bittersweet. They had hoped the arrest might provide closure, but the reality of the drawn-out legal process kept their grief raw. For them, each step forward brought some reassurance but never erased the loss. For Prada, each hearing was a reminder of the uncertainty that now defined his future. And for the community watching from the sidelines, the case became more than a headline. It was a lesson in accountability, tragedy, and the painstaking path toward resolution that begins once the handcuffs are locked and the courtroom doors swing open. The tragic case of Abraham and the subsequent arrest of Mr. Prada underscore how fragile justice can feel in moments when truth is still being pieced together. What began as a horrifying discovery has now unfolded into an influencer behind bars, raising questions not only about the accused, but also about broader systems of accountability that govern our lives. When East Baton Rouge's Sheriff's Office spokesperson Casey Hicks reminded the public that this is an ongoing investigation that'll take time to gather further evidence, it was a sobering reminder that justice is rarely swift or simple. Her words, coupled with the assurance that this arrest may provide some closure, point to the delicate balance between hope and patience that victims' families often endure. But beyond this individual case, there's a bigger reality worth noting. According to research published in the Journal of Criminal Justice, high-profile homicide cases often take months, sometimes years to resolve, with delays rooted in evidence processing, witness cooperation, and judicial backlogs. These delays can weigh heavily on both victims' families and the accused. reminding us that justice is not only about verdicts, but also about process. Transparency, patience, and vigilance from the public are crucial in ensuring that such cases move forward responsibly. Nearly a year after his arrest, authorities reached a critical milestone. He was formally indicted on a first-degree murder charge on January 16, 2025. The indictment was upgraded from second-degree due to the victim's age, triggering eligibility for the death penalty under Louisiana law. As of now, Thomas remains in Dallas County Jail without bond, awaiting trial. As the legal proceedings against Mr. Prada continue, this story will inevitably evolve. The unanswered questions about motive, evidence, and eventual judgment remain open, leaving space for both speculation and hope. For now, the case serves as both a tragedy and a call to collective awareness. If you want to stay informed as this case develops, and to understand the wider issues surrounding criminal justice, accountability, and community safety, make sure you're subscribed, engaged, and part of this ongoing conversation. Justice isn't passive, it demands attention. Stay tuned because this story is far from over.